All right, so I went ahead and created a new project here. I called it Play FX or Sound Effect. As such, you can name whatever you want. So go ahead and create a project just like what I did here. All right, so as usual, let's go inside of our resources, and I'm going to create another raw directory here. So go to Android resource, make sure that we want this to be raw, and the value types, we want them obviously to be raw. So I'm going to say okay. And I do already have a few sounds that I have here. Look at that. Sounds very good. How about this one? Ooh, spooky. Let's try this one. Very good. So I'm going to copy all of these sounds over. So that way we have all of them. Of course, you're going to have access to all of these sounds for your own test projects here. So go to raw, copy all of them, and they all should be in there. Very good. So make sure that they have underscore if you have more than one word. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be SoundPool class to load all of these sounds into memory and then play them. You'll notice shortly here with SoundPool there's a little bit more functions that we can tap into, a little more setting up, because now the idea is to load as many small sound effects as you possibly want or can for your application or for your game and so forth, right? So the way we do things is going to be a little bit different for that reason. And remembering that anything we add resource-wise into memory, it takes up memory and is a potential memory leak contender. So that's why SoundPool is very good at getting the resources that it needs for each item we add. In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? We can put all of these items in a separate part in memory and call these items when they needed to be called or when users wants to hear the sounds and so forth. Okay, so let's go ahead and put things together. Now this app is going to be very simple for obvious reasons because we're just going to look at using SoundPool here. So inside of our activity main XML here, we're going to just do a few things, which is adding buttons there. So we have about 4 sounds, so I'm going to create 4 buttons. So go ahead and pause if you want and do it yourself. In fact, I don't need this last one. There we go. So 4, that looks good. Let's add a few constraints. Very good. Constraints to this one. Okay, so we have all these buttons. Let's go ahead and give a few IDs here. I'm going to say button 1, yes, and I'm going to give it text. Okay, so there we go. The text name we can change, but that's fine. We don't have to add anything there. So for button 2 here, I'm going to say button 2, yes. Three, oops, that's too much. Let's start again. 3. And we have 4. All right, so you could have done this by yourself, but here we go. All right, very good. So we have all of our buttons here. Let's go ahead and give a quick run here. So hopefully we can see something. I'm going to use Nougat there. And voila. And we have our application here. So nothing very special here, but we'll make this special by putting together the code. All right, let's go back to our main activity here. So this is where we are going to be able to put it all together. So first of all, let's get our buttons. I'm going to say private. So I'm going to put button here. We got 4 of them. I'm going to just say button 1, button 2. I can put all of those in one line because they're all kind of the same, but usually we want to put all of these in different lines. But in this case here, we just want to get things to work, so it doesn't really matter. There we go. So we have our buttons there. Very good. So inside here, we are going to go ahead and instantiate them. So button 1, button 2, button 3. There we go. And button 4. So very good. So I'm going to go ahead and actually make them all clickable here. So button 1, that's set on click listener, which means I'm going to make main activity here implement the on click listener. So there we go. I'm going to have to invoke the on click there. So now see, we have the on click listener, which is going to attend to our main activity. That's just simpler because we have more than one button there. So I'm going to say button 2, set on click, pass this, button 3, 4, this. Very good. So we have all of those buttons ready to go. So here I'm going to say switch, okay, v.getID, and I'm going to iterate through. So case where r.id that button 1. I'm going to say break. Very good. So in this case here, I'm just going to go ahead and play the sound for button 1. Okay, very good. So we're going to do the same thing for all others. So at this point here, we haven't done anything new. So let's go ahead and look at putting together the SoundPool class. So at the top here, we're going to create a SoundPool object, instance variable, I should say. So it's going to say SoundPool. There we go. Android Media, call this SoundPool. Now, because each of the items that we're going to be playing, or each of the sounds, MP3 files we're going to be playing, when we retrieve them from our raw folder, they're going to come in as an int, just the same way as anything that comes inside of values like strings, colors, and so forth. They always come around as an integers. That means we're going to fetch those IDs as well as such, right? So I'm going to say, for instance, int, I'm going to say sound 1, sound 2, sound 3, and sound 4. We're going to be able to store those integers, those IDs for each of our sounds. So next, inside of our own create here, we're going to instantiate our SoundPool. Close this down. So I'm going to say SoundPool, right, is equal to new SoundPool. Now we could use this new SoundPool here and pass in the streams and all the things that we need to pass as parameters. But notice that this is crossed out here because this means it's deprecated. It's deprecated as of API 21, right? So if you are using, meaning when you created this, your project, and you target API less than 21, then this will work, okay? So the better way to do this for newer APIs greater than 21, you invoke the builder class as such. Okay, so SoundPool.builder, it goes ahead and get the SoundPool builder class. Very good. So at this point here, we have to do a few things to get our builder to work. Well, the moment we say SoundPool.builder, we can also invoke the build method. Now, we're not done yet here because as we build our SoundPool here, we have to pass a few other things. One of the things that we need to pass, this is what we kind of talked about previously, is that with SoundPool, we have to set things up just to cater for making sure that our memory allocation is actually correct and everything is working properly. Meaning, at this point here, I can actually set, first of all, in advance, the maximum streams. What this means is SoundPool makes sure that every item we are adding into memory is going to be set before it's even used. In this case here, we can set the amount of streams or max streams, meaning just think of parts in memory that are going to be allocated for a certain sound file. Okay, so in this case here, I can say the max stream that I'm going to be using is going to be 4 because I only have 4 of them. Okay, now if I had 5 or 10 sounds, of course, I'm going to put the number. And the next thing I'm going to add here is the audio attributes. Now, what are these things, audio attributes? Let's go ahead and say dot attributes here. Now, in audio attributes, we have to pass this object. Now, audio attributes, as the name implies, allows us to add certain properties that we want to pass to our SoundPool for all of the audio that we're going to be using in this application. The audio attributes class allows us to set up, for instance, things like, okay, what kind of sounds are we going to be using? For instance, I can come here and say audio attributes dot, look at this, there's the type of movie, maybe this sound that we're going to play is going to be type for a movie or some sort, or music, or sonification, speech, unknown, all of these different ones. We can also pass in things that are going to be used for alarm, right? So when something happens, we can just send this little notification sound for an alarm and so forth. Okay, so it tells us exactly what are things that we want to set up for our audio. Now you may ask, why is this so important? Well, this is important again because SoundPool wants to make sure that everything that it consumes, it's not going to end up leading memory leak, all catastrophes that may come with dealing with sounds. Okay, very good. So let's go ahead and instead of adding all of these inside here, I'm going to go ahead and create an object at the top here. So I'm going to say audio attributes, call this audio attributes is equal to new audio attributes. I'm going to invoke the builder, say builder like that, just like what we're doing before with our SoundPool there. And I'm going to say build, but before we build, we have to pass stuff into our audio attributes. Well, we're going to go ahead and say dot set content type, for instance, and I can say the content type, I want it to be audio attributes dot content type sonification. Okay, very good. That's just for sound general. And then go ahead and say dot set usage. So in this case here, what is the usage of this sound? Well, I'm going to go ahead audio attributes again. I want the usage to be for, in this case, I'm going to say assistance notification like that. And the good thing, you may say, okay, Paulo, where do you get all that information, right, to know about the audio attributes? Well, you can go to the actual developer's documentation. So if you go to developer.android and you can search at the top here, say audio attributes, I already did, that's why we have this. It gives you exactly the link where you can read more about audio attributes. So it tells us it's a final type class, okay, and it tells us exactly what it is. So it's a class to encapsulate a collection of attributes describing information about an audio stream. Exactly what I just said, okay? You can go ahead and read more. We talked about the usage. It's the why, right? You are applying a sound. What is this sound used for? Very good. And you come down here, you can see all these types that we talked about earlier. There's content type movie. There's constants, right? This is content value. So it says content value to use when content type is soundtrack, typically accompanying a movie or TV program. So the names are very meaningful. Okay, so all of this. So you can come down here and start reading so you know exactly what's the usage. So it's important to always know what is it that you use it for, and then come here and try to figure out what would be the appropriate one for you to use. All right, very good. So we have those attributes there. We can add more, but at this point we don't need to. So I'm going to just stop there and copy this attribute object and put it inside there. Very good. So now we have our sound pool created. So we set it the max streams to 4 because we want to make sure that we only allocate 4 spots in the memory, if you will. And the audio attributes, we pass this object here we created at the top. So make sure that we set the content type to just sonification, right? Set usage for the assistance sonification as well. In fact, you can come down here and see what that all means. Usage, assistance, notification, usage value to use when the usage is sonification, such as with user interface sounds. Okay, so that sounds more something that we are going to be using for. All right, so we're making good progress here. In the next video, we'll finalize using SoundPool, because at this point here, we've created the SoundPool, we've created the audio attributes. We are then going to be able to pull all of our sounds from our raw folder here and then play them using the SoundPool.